Good morning, friends. It's Michelle from Little Farm in the Valley. Today I'm going to be showing you how I make beef bone broth. This is so healthy, nutritious, and delicious. And I was just down in my canning pantry the other day and I saw I only have 2 quarts left. It just flies off the shelves so fast, especially with Stetson around. He will eat this every day, and never tire of it. So today I'm going to be taking you along as I show you my method, because there's a lot of ways you could do this, but today I'm just going to be showing you my method of making beef bone broth. So let's get to work. So the first, obviously, and the most important thing we're going to need are beef soup bones. So when you go to buy beef in bulk, for example, quarters or halves or a whole beef, always make sure to ask your butcher for the soup bones, and they will give you the portion. For example, if you buy a quarter, they will give you the soup bones that go with that quarter of beef. So the last one that I got was a half, so I happen to have, these are like half the bones I have left, because I've already made one big pot of broth out of the other half of the bones, and then I save half of them to do another batch. And this bag is marrow. I just asked for marrow also, and so I got, I think on the other batch I did 2 bags of marrow, so I had 1 bag left, and then on the other batch I did 2 bags of bones. So this one will be the same, except it'll have a little bit less marrow, but it's still fine. So I guess the first step is to get out your biggest stock pot that you have, and that'll depend on how many bones you have. Like, I'm just going to do a 5-gallon pot because of how many bones I have, but if I were to do maybe just this, I could do a smaller pot. But it depends on your preference, and it depends on how big of a batch of bones you're going to be working with. Okay, this is my biggest stock pot. It's a 5-gallon pot, and this is what I always use for bone broth. So I'm gonna fill it pretty much full with water, and then we'll add the rest of the ingredients. So these are our main ingredients. Pot's just about full. So onions, carrots, celery, some celery leaves I had in the freezer, some beets, and this is homemade apple cider vinegar.
Okay. No, I need 2.
Just 3 times.
Oh, we can make a snowman.
Okay, go.
Nicola.
Yep, go.
Nick.
Good job, Stetson.
We can do more.
So I've added my onions, my celery, and my celery leaves. There's someone standing on the counter throwing carrots into the pot. Stetson. So now we're gonna add the bones.
We also do more eggs.
These have been out of the freezer for maybe an hour. So it's perfectly fine to put them in. Still frozen, so now I'm gonna add my garlic, the beets. The beets are kind of optional. Some people like the beets in there, some don't. I do it just to give my broth a rich color. It gives it a dark golden color. And these are just celery leaves that I saved and put in the freezer for making bone broth. So this is all the vegetables that I put in, and then of course the bones. So the next thing are the seasonings. So one of the most important things is to add your soup base. You can find chicken and beef base at most grocery stores. And I do quite a bit of this. Give it a good beefy flavor. Some people don't add this at all, but since I usually have some on hand, I will add it. I'll do some peppercorns.
I want you.
Actually, what I like to do,
I want to do like it.
what I like to do is put actually the whole peppercorns in there. Okay, that's enough.
I want to.
Alright, I have everything in here that I'm going to put in there, so the next thing that I'm going to do is get my lid on and get it on the stove and bring it to a simmer. So your typical bone broth is going to take 3 to 3.5 hours at a simmer until you can say that it's ready, until all the nutrients have been cooked out of the bones. That normally takes 3 to 3.5 hours. Now when you saw me add the apple cider vinegar, what that does is it helps to break the bones down faster and get all the nutrients out of those bones. So if you don't add it, there's still a chance after 3.5 hours that there could still be some nutrients left in your bones and that they're not broken down as much as they could be. But that's just an extra step that I like to take. It's not really necessary that you have to, and no, you will not taste apple cider vinegar in your broth. Alright, so I'm going to turn that burner. I'm going to turn it to high for now. And once I get it to simmer, I'm going to cover this with my lid, but once I get it to simmer, I'll start turning down the temperature. It's morning. Definitely still warm. So we are going to tackle this morning. Smells amazing. Oh yeah, that's ready. There's a good layer of fat on that, which is also the reason why I kept it on low, because if I would have turned it off completely, it would have probably been cooled down by now, and that fat layer on top would have hardened, and it's just a whole lot easier to work with when it's warm, and it's also a lot easier to clean up. You know, once that fat starts to harden and cool, it's just a lot harder to wash your dishes and all that, so it looks ready to go. So once you have everything out of the broth, like all the veggies and all the bones and stuff, then you have to strain it again to make sure you get all the particles. You want a really clear bone broth. So over the years I've tried various things. I've tried just the something like this, and I find, this is still wet from this morning, I find that it lets too much trash go through. So actually my favorite thing to use is a sock. So just take a new, preferably white sock, and literally use that as your strainer. Today I'm going to use this. This is some type of cheesecloth that a friend gave me. I don't know if it's going to do as well as the sock with catching all the debris, but I'm going to give it a try. And if it doesn't work, I might just go back to the old sock method. I'm always trying new things, but the sock works really well for sure. And with a sock, you know, it's narrow, so you can just fold it around a glass jar and pour your soup through. With this, I'm just gonna, it's not gonna be very easy, but I'm gonna see if I can find an easy way to strain this through with just one pair of hands. So we'll see how this goes. All right. Let's see how I like this. So it's catching some debris, definitely, but I can see that there's a lot more trash in there than my sock would normally let through. Well, here's my sock. Just a white, regular old sock. This one's been used for soup before. This is not dirt. I take new socks, and then when I'm done with them, I'll wash them once or twice and reuse them for just this purpose. So this is probably the last time I'm going to use this, because it's getting a little bit sticky and it doesn't wash out very much anymore. So I think next time I'll just take a new sock. It does such a great job at catching every little particle of whatever's in this broth. So I'll fill my jar most of the way up, and then I'll pour my broth over into another container. And then I'll just keep going with this sock. The soup has a beautiful golden color today. And that is pretty clear. There is no debris in there at all. So the sock method seems to be superior above everything else. Here is all the broth that we got. We got 2 pretty big pots and then a little one. So now I'm just waiting for the jars in the dishwasher. you can see my pressure canner steaming behind me. So here's the thing with pressure canning. If you don't know how to pressure can, I would not recommend that your first time making bone broth, you try and learn how to pressure can at the same time, because pressure canning in itself is a lot to learn. Never mind doing bone broth for the first time and trying to learn how to pressure can. That would probably be overwhelming. So what I did when I wanted to learn about pressure canning is I actually went on YouTube and I just searched how to pressure can. I cannot remember what videos, I can't reference anything or anyone, but I know they're out there. I think maybe later in the year when I have some gardening stuff going on, I might do a video for you on how to pressure can, but today I don't think I want to overwhelm you with doing bone broth and teaching how to pressure can at the same time. So for those of you that know how to pressure can, this will all make sense to you. And for those of you who have never pressure canned but you want to do your own beef bone broth, you know, just do the freezing or refrigerating. And if you think you don't have room, just do smaller batches. It'll work out fine. I used to do that. But now that I've learned how to pressure can, it's kind of become my go-to. So my water is steaming in the pressure canner. So I'm going to go ahead and start getting my jars in there. So it looks like I'm going to only fit in 5 jars. I kind of use my strangest jars for bone broth, so I've got jars of all shapes and sizes. And if you are a pressure canning expert, you might know this tip, but add a little bit of vinegar to your water, and that will keep your jars from getting that white stain from the water. So I'm ready to pop my lid on here and get this going. So once that starts to steam, it needs a steady stream of steam coming out for about 10 minutes. Then we're going to be ready to put our weight on here and let the pressure start building. It's going to take me a long time to do this, because I only got, what did I say, five or six jars in there. I don't know yet how many jars I'm going to get. I'm still filling, but it takes maybe an hour to do one batch in the pressure canner. So that's kind of why I split my days and do the soup during the night and pressure can it the next day, because pressure canning takes a long time. Alright, our timer went off for the 10 minutes, so I'm just going to put my weight on here, and then the pressure will start to build. So I'm looking for a 10-pound pressure at 25 minutes. So once it gets to 10, I'll start my timer again. So my gauge has reached 10 pounds pressure. For some reason it's blurring on me, but it's about at 10. So I just want to hold it steady at 10 pounds pressure for 25 minutes. So at this point I'm going to hop up here, put my timer on, and try to keep this at 10. Our timer just went off, so I turned off the heat. And now what we have to do is we have to let the pressure come down all the way at 0. Then we take this off, and then we give it about 5 more minutes, then we'll be able to open the lid. So this pressure canning, it's time consuming. I'm not sure when I started this first batch, but I think it takes a good hour, if not more, one batch from start to finish. All right, I'm ready to open this. So you gotta do this fast so you don't get any steam burns. All right, let's take a look at our broth. Just beautiful. Still very hot. You can see it's still almost boiling. So I'm going to take it over to my towel, and I'm going to have it over here for 24 hours to cool. This is one of the most satisfying sights you're ever going to see on your kitchen counter. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more videos.